Hey guys, it's Aveen, and today we're going to discuss hiking boots. Hiking boots are, in my opinion, the most important outdoor purchase you can make because if you think about it, nothing can ruin a hike faster than not having a good pair of boots. The potential for injury is huge. You know, with a pair of bad boots, if you don't have one that fits well, your foot's going to slide around, it's not going to be very effective as far as tread, and you're going to risk blisters, a lot of blisters, and even more serious injuries like with your ankles. So it's critical that you're able to find a good pair of boots, one that works for you, the type of hiking you do, and your budget. So when you look into boots initially, it's a bit daunting because there are a lot of brands that make boots, and quality varies hugely. At the bottom end, there's brands like the North Face, Timberland, High Tech that just kind of make more of a fashionable boot. At the high end, there are brands like Oslo, Scarpa, Vask, Salomon, brands that aren't very well known by public, but they make absolutely stellar boots that'll last you forever. So when you're getting into this, there are a couple things initially to consider. First one is, what kind of hiking do you do? You know, are you just going 20 minutes to a local state park to do a little day hike, or are you going to be climbing a 14er in Colorado with a 50-pound pack? That's going to dictate how big of a boot you get. You know, with, for example, the first example, 20-minute away state park doing a quick little day hike, you honestly could do that in a pair of sneakers. But if you're climbing a high peak or you're carrying a huge pack for multiple days, you need something much more substantial to support your arches, your ankles, and your foot in general. Another one is price, another consideration. And obviously you're going to try to get the cheapest one that you can get. And that isn't the best advice. I would say if there's anything you're not going to skimp on, do not skimp on boots, because the actual damage that can be caused by a low quality pair of boots is too high. When for 10, 20 more dollars you could afford something that'll last you years, but will be absolutely reliable. So that's something to consider. And another thing to consider is you really need to try on the pair of boots before you buy. The worst thing you can do is just look at your street shoe, say, oh, that's say like a 10.5. Go online and just purchase a pair of boots that are 10.5, because all boot brands fit differently, and you're going to be stuck with a pair of boots that won't feel very good that you just paid over $100 for, you know. So boots are the one thing that's absolutely critical to get yourself out to a store, to a footwear store, to an outdoor outfitter in general, and have an actual knowledgeable person work with you to find the right boot. Now, there are different types of boots. There are, starting out with low top, which I don't really have a good example of a low top here, but the closest thing would be like this, the Merrell. It's essentially just it's a sneaker height, you know, cuts off right under your ankle. And those are good just as hiking shoes, something a bit more substantial than a sneaker for just quick little day hikes, you know, or if you're like an ultralight backpacker and you're not carrying more than like 20 pounds on your back. So that would be the best option in that case, because they save you a bit of weight. Now, the middle of the road, 80% of all boots are mid-heights. These are all considered mid-height boots, ones that go up around your ankle. And that's kind of like the workhorse. You know, most of the boots made are mid-height boots because at the lighter end of mid-height boots, like these Scarpas, they're almost the same weight as just your average trail shoe. While on the upper end, you get mid-heights that can be used as mountaineering boots. You know, huge, beefy boots that still cut off at that height. Now, for a mountaineering boot, they make some that go even higher, up far above your ankles, and those are really a specialized kind of niche boot. You know, there's not a lot of people using real high tops for just hiking. A lot of them are using them to scale really high peaks, really technical terrain, often with ice tools, things like that. So if you're doing anything beyond a day hike, a quick day hike with a day pack, then you're going to be looking at essentially a mid-height boot. So when you get to the store, it's possible that you might not immediately know what's a good fit for you. General rule of thumb for fitting a boot is immediately you want to tell the outfitter whether you have a wide, narrow foot, or if there's any anomalies in your foot shape, things like that, that could be addressed right on the spot. Because you could try on 10 different pairs of boots, or you could tell your outfitter right off the bat, hey, I've got a wide boot, and save yourself a lot of time. So general rule of thumb for a good fitting boot, is you want the heel through the middle of the foot to be pretty tight, pretty snug, but you want room in the toe box. That's the only place where it should be loose, is right in the toe box, so your toes have room to wiggle, they're not being scrunched up front. Another thing to consider is you should probably go try on boots later in the day, because as your foot expands throughout the day, by the end of the day it's going to be a little bit bigger than it will at the beginning of the day. So you're going to want to go around, say, like 5-6 p.m. at the end of the day when your foot's the biggest it's going to be. Also, you should wear the socks that you plan to hike in when you go try on boots, because I've had people, I work in an outdoor store, and I've had people that have come in with, you know, athletic socks, running socks, put on a pair of boots, found them to fit great, went home, came back 2 days later because they tried to hike in them with, you know, smart wool socks and found them to be way too tight. So that's another thing to consider. So when you get into the store, try to look for a fit that from, say, the ball of your foot back is relatively snug, but there's plenty of room for your toes. This way, you're not going to risk scrunching up your toes and getting blisters up in your toes, but at the same time, if the boot has room all around, you're going to get massive toe bang on the downhill, your foot's going to be sliding around, and it'll just be a mess. So, tight heel forward until you get the toes, where there's plenty of room in the toe box. And it's weird for me because I have a weird shaped foot where I have a narrow heel but a huge toe box, so I need a very specific kind of boot to fit me well. Yeah. You're also going to be looking at arch support. As far as arch support, it isn't quite critical right now to look at arch support, and I'll tell you why, but it is a massive plus for a boot to have plenty of arch support. So when you get in it, you automatically feel comfortable, you feel supported, you feel like you could hike all day in those boots and not have any aches and pains. I referenced earlier that there are separate brands that work better for a wider foot or a narrower foot. I'll reference some of those right now. For a wider foot, I would recommend going with Merrell. These guys make boots with a lot of foot volume, so people with wider feet find these to be really comfortable. On the narrower end, I would look at Vask, because Vasks come, again, with that kind of narrow, almost aggressive kind of foot, you know, fitting. There's not a lot of volume in these shoes, which is why people with narrower feet find these to be really comfortable, really almost fits your foot like a glove. Also on the narrower side are boots like Solomon. Those are also really aggressively designed, really lightweight, really low volume boots. And another wider boot brand would be Keen, K-E-E-N. They make also bigger volume, more padded, comfortable boots for people with wider feet. Now, I have 3 pairs of boots in front of me right now. These are all of my own boots, and I'll just go from right to left, I guess you're left to right. I'll start with these. These are Vask Breeze GTXs, and you can tell these are my most used pair of boots because obviously wear and tear. I probably have about over 200 miles on these boots. The reason being is they're just a great boot overall. Pointing out some of the features. Whenever you see a boot with the suffix GTX after the model name, that means it has a Gore-Tex liner. You can see it in here. That means it's waterproof yet breathable. So a boot like this, even with all this mesh, lets a lot of steam escape, a lot of vapor escape when your foot is sweating, but at the same time it's completely waterproof. So that's something to look for. You can also see eyelets going all the way up, so you can lace it all the way up, and that's something to be careful of. Some brands don't have very durable eyelets. So as you lace it up over, you know, days, weeks, months, one of these might break off on, again, a lower quality brand. So that's something to watch out for as well. But you can see, you know, a lot of curvature in the sole to provide a lot of support. Lightweight boots, you know, but at the same time they'll support your ankle, being a mid-height boot. So these are a good look. My current boots, these are Scarpa Moraines. These are much lighter boots. They're not as stiff as these or these. And they also have a Gore-Tex liner. They're Moraine GTXs. And again, more aggressive because I'm an ultralight backpacker, so I don't need a very substantial boot. So something like this does a trick for me. And again, you know, lacing all the way up. These actually don't have eyelets that you hook through. These are actually full like holes that's already laced up through, so you don't have to relace it up all the way every time, which is a nice thing. But you know, just again, I have a narrower foot, so you can see there's this narrowness right here, but then it opens up a lot in the toe box so that you have plenty of room in your toe. Now these are kind of the outlier among my pairs. These are Merrell Radius Mids, and I bought these because they were on clearance and they'd be, you know, a fashionable little boot to wear. I wasn't really taking them seriously. And a major red flag for me that went up is whenever you see a boot that's advertised as being waterproof without Gore-Tex, that you got to really be careful about that, because what that means is this shoe will not have any breathability. It'll be like a sauna inside here for your feet. So, and the combination, and this particular boot has a lot of insulation. The combination of waterproof without Gore-Tex and insulation means that this is really only suitable as a winter boot. Also, it's a lot more stiff in the sole than both of these others. So it's definitely a much heavier boot. Again, it's still a mid-height, which shows, you know, these are all mid-heights, so it's kind of all over the board with mid-heights, but these are at the heavier end of mid. It just goes to show you, you know, you can see there's absolutely no mesh along this entire thing. You know, it's built to be completely watertight. And it's weird, in my opinion, that Merrell advertised this as a year-round hiker, because there's no way you could hike with a boot like this in the summer, you know. So earlier I said that arch support when you're testing in the shop is not that critical. The reason being is because of these. These are orthotic insoles. These are made by Superfeet, which is my favorite brand of these insoles. What these do is, if you take out the insole in your foot, in your shoe, and you put these in, there's a lot more arch support, a rigid arch in here, and padding. And they make all sorts of models of these for different foot needs. You know, these are a bit more advanced than the basic model. The basic model, the green they call it, doesn't have any padding here. All it provides is more arch. This has a bit of padding and a bit more heel rise, being the orange. So these are also a quick solution if you find a boot that fits well but just doesn't quite have the arch support. I believe the basics run for about 40 bucks, so it's not killer. So say you decided on a great boot. You know, you got these insoles if you needed them, you found a boot that worked great for you. Now what you need to do is break it in. And what that means is just wear it around, you know? Wear it around, let the sole break down a bit if it's gonna do that, you know? Let the fit kind of melt your foot a bit more as you wear it, you know, just in your everyday life to make sure it is in fact the right boot for you. And, you know, by breaking it in and tinkering around, getting these if you need them, and doing your research before you go out and buy a pair of boots, you can end up with a great pair that's going to be really comfortable and last you a very long time. Thank you.